All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're at and when you're watching this. This is really meant to be a very straightforward opportunity for the people watching this presentation to really get some heavy hitting recommendations in regard to remote access security. We obviously know there is a huge push towards remote access. But what this is just that. It's an opportunity to kind of do the best with what you have. We've got a number of different things that we want to talk about. It's not a push for any specific product or sale of any sort. It's really just to help some of these companies who are really struggling in the last minute to build a remote access methodology and do so with some best practices in mind with security. So moving forward, just a little quick excerpt on us here at CBI. We've been in business for 30 years. Definitely something, cybersecurity isn't something we do. It's all that we do. I'm proud to be part of this team, which I am absolutely surrounded by rock stars that are very passionate about what they do and have a ton of experience. And, we focus on output and results. That's what is important for us is providing some tangible opportunities for customers to move that ball down the field as it pertains to cybersecurity. Who am I? My name is Shaun Bertrand. I've been at CBI for 18 years. The way that I describe myself, extremely passionate individual as it pertains to cybersecurity. I've been in the industry for a lot longer than that. Don't want to date myself too much, but what do I do here at CBI? I'm honored to run our red team, and we call it the Advanced Testing Services team, which is a group of about 15 ethical Jedi Knight computer hackers who do what they do best. They help identify advanced and sophisticated threats in our customer environments and help them mitigate that stuff efficiently and effectively. And as a result of having been in this industry for 12 years since the inception of our red team, we have a very comprehensive understanding of remote access security. And so what we're going to talk about today, this isn't meant to be a long-durated death by PowerPoint. I think there's 5 or 6 slides in total, but there's really some core categories that are important for individuals, organizations, both big and small, that are really taking this more concentrated pursuit of remote access. And so these areas that we're going to talk about today include things like VPNs, firewalls, endpoint security, authentication, and awareness. Is this a perfect 100% coverage of everything related to remote access? No, it's not. But what it is meant to do is provide you with a quick hit list of things that you should be doing, or at least should be tracking towards. We're going to start with VPNs, right? Because it's one of the most widely used mediums to gain remote access. All right, so VPNs, virtual private networks. Overall, really, it's all about two-factor and a number of other things, but two-factor is an absolute necessity. All right, so make sure that you have an understanding of what's out there. We're going to talk about inventory in a little bit, but if you don't have two-factor out there, you are absolutely at risk. It is a necessity for all of your users to have two-factor on any type of remote access solution. And nowadays, with the craziness of COVID and everything else, historically you may have ran into issues culturally trying to get 2FA rolled out, but at least you have some momentum here that you can get this stuff rolled out swiftly as a means to make sure that the disruption that we've already had in our environment doesn't get any worse as a result of a cybersecurity attack. Another area I want to talk about is client host integrity checking. So this is a real nice win, and a lot of VPN solutions already have this baked in. But what client host integrity checking does is just run some sanity checks on the computer that is requesting to connect to your environment through the VPN to make sure that that computer is not introducing any threats into your environment or into that network. So they're going to check for things like making sure you're fully patched, you're running AD or EDR, and definitions are up to date. Maybe your firewall needs to be turned on. It's going to just do some just good checks to make sure that we're following some of those best practices. One thing to talk about is in a very cost conscious world that we're living in right now is areas that we can either save some money, reduce some of the bandwidth or congestion, and one way to do that is through split tunneling. So on your VPN, you have the opportunity for your endpoints to route either all their internet traffic through you or through the internet for what they need to get to the internet, and to the organization for what they need to get to the organization. So if they need to get something that is out on the internet, they'll go directly to the internet to do so, and they won't funnel through your network, and as a result they won't eat up your bandwidth and cause possible latency or performance issues. So split tunneling, great opportunity. Inventory is everything. You look at the CSE controls and things of that nature, and I think this is very important, because when we do our red team engagements, we always hear that, and most customers will say, yes, we've got two-factor rolled out, and it's rolled out everywhere. And then we find some rogue VPN or some legacy VPN or some VPN that was in Europe or Asia that they forgot about. So first of all, just make sure you know what's out there, all right, on an external VPN as well as just a remote access perspective. There's many other ways, to gain remote access, such as RDP, team server, things of that nature. So just get a good inventory of everything that you have out there, and then you can begin to evaluate where 2FA is, where it's not, just doing some checks and balances. All right, moving on next, firewalls. They are important. They're a traditional mechanism or control that's been around for a long time, but I'm here to tell you that they are important. And I think the approach that you need to take if you don't have firewalls at the endpoint right now on your remote workforce is, adopt a crawl, walk, run approach. So if you don't have any firewalls running right now, just start with Windows Firewall, all right? Just get it out there. And you don't have to, boil the ocean in regards to policies. Start with some of the default policies, like, Windows out of the box has a public policy and a private policy, so that when you're inside the domain, there's some different controls and access control lists that are in place. So again, just do the best with what you have. One thing I want to emphasize that we take advantage of a lot in the remote access capacity with red teaming is endpoints that have two wide open rules in regards to egress protocols. So the protocols that are allowed outbound from your endpoint, sometimes we see customers that just have kind of an allow all rule. That is very bad, because there are things that the malicious adversaries can easily take advantage of there, like forced authentication attacks. All right, so at a minimum, what you want to do is make sure ports 139 and 445 are blocked to eliminate some of these things like forced authentication attacks, where it's possible, to send an email to a user with an embedded kind of hidden SMB link that would inevitably, if the user opened the email and clicked download images, it would inevitably send us, or the bad guys, their NTLM username and hash password. All right, so that is bad stuff, easily accomplished, almost a trivial attack, but also it's just as easy to lock these ports down. All right. So that's firewalls. Let's talk a little bit about endpoint security. Oh, I think I forgot one here. Location awareness. Yeah, let's talk location awareness real quickly. Location awareness is the ability for an endpoint, either an endpoint security solution or a firewall, to be able to identify where they are. So in the inside of the environment, controlled and protected by the brick and mortar, we have, a different firewall policy in place to allow that endpoint to do certain things. But when that laptop walks out the building and that person takes that laptop to Starbucks, I would really like the opportunity to be able to apply some strengthened policies in that environment, or even when they're at home, right? So certain products, and we'll talk endpoint here momentarily, have location awareness capabilities and the potential to apply strengthened security policies based on where they're at. It's a real great control, oftentimes baked into products that people don't even know that it's there. All right, now on to endpoint security. It is a big bang approach. There can be a lot of value in having a solidified endpoint security solution, but I want to position this again as a means to help everybody. All right, so some of you are probably running antivirus, right? Just the traditional antivirus, and some of you may be using something next gen or EDR, right? So let's talk about AV. All right, you got to do the best with what you have, right? So we know it's not a perfect solution to identify, malicious and advanced attacks, but enhance the policies where you can. That's first and foremost. All right, there's certainly the opportunity to strengthen controls like download reputation data. All right, I know there's antivirus tools that can say, anytime we see a new file that only 2 or 3 people have downloaded in the world, and that's only been in existence for the past few days, there's some real red flags there that can provide some strength and security. So look at what your potential is in the AV policy set, and just tune things up best you can without obviously causing interference to the environment. But if you cause an issue, you can scale things back and just find that happy medium. All right. Now, alerts and notifications, especially with traditional AV, is very important. Oftentimes, depending on the skill set of the attacker, what you're going to see is they're either going to be throwing the kitchen sink at your environment, or they're going to be very, covert in what they're doing. And in either end of the spectrum, you have an opportunity to at least identify at least some of the things that they might be doing, and as a result, identify that there's an attacker after you in your environment, infiltrating, moving laterally, and then you can take the necessary precautions or other things that you can do to impact their ability. But overall, those alerts and notifications are absent in so many environments that we see. So seeing if somebody ran Mimikatz, which is just totally low-hanging fruit, very easy to identify, could at least give you an indicator that something's going on and you need to do something about it. In addition, there are a number of different companies, EDR companies, that are offering some free capabilities to the remote workforce right now, given the situation. So investigate what those options are and leverage them accordingly, because EDR is absolutely light years away from the capabilities of traditional antivirus. If you're lucky enough to have EDR, make sure it's well operationalized. All right. So again, what we see a lot with EDR solutions is one of two things: either prevention isn't enabled, they're running in detection mode only, or they've got prevention enabled, but they're just not logging and alerting and notifying in the manner that gives them the visibility, because the attacker is going to continue to try things until they get what they're after. And so having that notification and awareness is really important. So in the EDR world, especially now with all the attacks, just keep your eyes on the prize, set up automated alerts, emails, and find those happy thresholds where you can use some aggregation so that you're not getting 50 emails on one situation. You get one that tells you this event occurred 50 times. Authentication. All right, so authentication is obviously a core competency to a good remote access security model, and as such, there's just some basics in place. Again, we stress the importance of two-factor, right? We know it's an absolute necessity, but sometimes we don't know where it is and where it isn't, or where we need it and where it's not applied. So again, as a result of the extensive red teaming that we've done, we see a lot of places where 2FA, the customer thinks that 2FA is there holistically, but then they might have a link service or an auto discover service or Skype or some miscellaneous exchange services enabled that still allow the attacker to get in and enumerate some data without that two-factor. So again, look at your perimeter, know what you have, and then you can work more effectively to secure it. Watch out for password spraying. All right, certainly an increase of activity with password spraying as a result of this remote workforce. All right, so especially in O365 and SSL VPN portals. Let's take O3. Well, actually, we'll take the SSL VPN first. You have to have the ability to see that somebody's either brute forcing or password spraying your SSL VPN. That's important. So if you don't work towards that, get some notification. On the O365 piece, there's a number of different things that you can do to gain this visibility, some of which are you might be a little bound to in regards to the tiered service and the pricing models that they have with the ATP capabilities. But there's also some great stuff that's just recently been deployed that not a lot of people know about. AIR, automated incident response, is an opportunity that Microsoft distributed and executed on a few months ago, and it's kind of just what it sounds like. It's automated incident response, leveraging a number of different playbooks and scenarios that they have created. As an example, a phishing attack comes in, it was deemed to be a risk by one of your users. They flagged it as a phishing attack. What AIR can do is then go into all the other users' inboxes and see who else got that email, and they can revoke that email, and they can apply some blocks at the email layer. There's a lot of cool things you can do with AIR as a result of this increased attack volume that we're seeing. All right, here, I think this is last but not least, and pretty much self-explanatory, is awareness. If you see something, say something. There's a number of different ways that we can do this. We know that attacks are ramping up. Ransomware, phishing, those go without saying. Watch for those common and in some cases more advanced attacks. Typo squatted, we're seeing typo squatted CDC domains, health and human services domains. We're seeing some stuff really getting down to the spear phishing attack at the local level, speaking to counties or municipalities. Obviously brings in a factor of trust and belief that people are falling for. Look out for those fake outbreak maps. Those are very prevalent. Number of different things going on here. We're going to try to in the very near future here provide kind of a weekly update in regards to some of these different attacks that we're seeing. And in regards to those observations that you're making, it's a great opportunity for you to communicate this stuff to your employees as a result of the communication that you're doing with COVID in general, right? So once your organization, if you're sending out daily updates, weekly updates, here's what we're doing about COVID. And by the way, these are some of the attacks that we're seeing. Be diligent in regards to the increased attacks that we're seeing. These are some that we're observing. Just be cautious. And that's a great opportunity to take some of the things that you are actually seeing and build value in security awareness. And then lastly, take advantage of free support. Obviously, we have offered our services to anybody that needs some guidance or handholding in anything regarding the challenges that we're working through as an organization, as a world, right? As just society right now. So take advantage of anything through CBI and also through the Cyber Volunteers group. So there is a Cyber Volunteers group that has been created to help anybody, but very specifically the healthcare services industry. Anybody from a regional facility upwards to an enterprise level hospital. I think there's about 1,000 members right now in this group. You can check out the site down there. And if you're in a position and in the appropriate vertical, you can reach out to this rockstar group of individuals that are volunteering their time to help. So that's it, really. Just want to provide people a quick, big impact, kind of big bang approach in regards to what you should be doing in regards to some of these best practices on remote security. We want you to reach out to us if you have any questions at all. Contact information is up there on the screen. We'll be the first to jump at the opportunity to provide that knowledge transfer enablement as we can. So be vigilant, be safe. Thanks for listening. We'll talk soon.